What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here with Nate Bailey. We are back again, breaking down everything that happened in week 13 of college football. Huge week ahead of us. It's rivalry week where a ton is going to be decided in the playoffs. But Nate, how are you, my man? How was your week 13?
I'm doing well, man. It was a crazy week to say the least. In total, from Tuesday to Saturday, I ended up going 7-10. So not a horrible record. Again, as we talk about our wins, always got to talk about the losses. I personally also am looking forward to this upcoming rivalry week. But yeah, pretty exciting stuff from these past few days here.
Yeah, it has not been the best November for me. And coming into the month, we were kind of flame throwing September and October. And I've been trying to look back and see why maybe it's not gone so well. And honestly, I think part of it is just not firing on everything that we show value on. Part of that is just me watching a lot of football, thinking I can know better than some spots. For example, there were like a ton of games that showed value that I didn't end up firing on. Vanderbilt, the under in the TCU game, among many others, many others. And Tennessee. So just kind of being a coward and thinking that I know better than the model in some spots. Obviously, there's like the bad beats and stuff that go in there. But as far as the games I did take, I wasn't too frustrated with the outcomes of any of them. Probably the most frustrating was that Missouri game where they just had so many chances to go back and put a score of any kind on the board. It could have been a field goal, could have been anything. And they had a field goal blocked in that game, which would have given the cover right there. So a little bit frustrating, but I'm excited for the weeks. It's pretty easy for me to turn the page. But anything overarching you saw in the games, or you want to just talk playoff and what we saw?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was for a lot of the teams that we expected to kind of come in and dominate. It was the same story. It was funny. I know we'll talk about it as we kind of get through everything else here, but I know we had our first game this year that we were on opposite ends with. And I was actually surprised.
That can't be your first one.
I think that was our first one this year, dude. The USC game. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That was a gross game. That was the game of the week. So I know.
It certainly was. But yeah, I think from what we saw, nothing really surprised me. I was a little disappointed in some spots. I thought some teams were going to be a little more competitive than what they were. But I'm also still I know, again, we don't put all our stock in rankings. I am interested to see what these are also going to look like coming out here on Tuesday as well.
All right, well, let's talk results with an eye towards the playoffs, and that brings us to the SEC. It was FCS week in the SEC, so there's not as many outcomes to talk about. The marquee one we hinted at was Missouri taking on Oklahoma. Finishes the game pretty underwhelming. It was a 17-6 win for Oklahoma. They had an 83% post-game win expectancy. You're not going to really find much in the box score that suggests Missouri should have won the game. Bo Pribula did play, so I ended up with 4 points of closing line value. Again, the missed field goal loomed large in how that game didn't end up a cover. But ultimately, it came down to some pretty bad turnovers. 2 interceptions, and both of them were horrific. Just straight up into double coverage. Sometimes even one of them he threw. There were like 8 defenders around him. And I get it. You got to make a play in a game where you're down 9 points, 11 points. And those are the decisions you can't make, even if you need a win. Like, you're just auto losing when you do stuff like that. And Oklahoma's offense really struggled in this game. 4.5 yards per play. They didn't get much going either. It was literally just Missouri giving the ball right back. So Oklahoma could get 3 or 4 minutes off the clock in the second half. Anything in this game?
Well, for Oklahoma, they didn't really stick out as this crazy explosive offense through all 4 quarters. They had that one large touchdown early in the first half, Satanga, which was very impressive. Beautiful play call. Defender fell down again. One of those, like, what are you going to do? Big play, big swing in the game there. The big thing for Missouri, for me, is it's another week of them just not being able to establish a vertical pass game. Obviously, Ahmad Hardy, one of the best players in the country. But you're playing these top 10 teams in the SEC. You have to be more than one-dimensional here. So, yes, Missouri, still great defense. Not enough on offense still here from this team. And also, when we're on the goal line, horrendous play calling yesterday for the Tigers. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible, disappointing. I was looking forward to Missouri coming out, being a lot more competitive in this game. I've been fading Oklahoma a lot this year. I'm probably going to stop that because I think they are I think you can say they are pretty legit at this point. Yeah, pretty disappointed on the Missouri side here.
Yeah, yeah, the Kevin Coleman drop touchdown in the end zone. Like one of Bo Pribula's few good throws. Kevin Coleman kind of ran. He like sort of stopped on the route or like rounded it off in a weird way. It still was firmly in his hands and not one where he was diving or it was a hard catch, not a crazy catch by any means. He absolutely should have had it. Their first possession too, they also had a hold in the red zone, which turned a touchdown into a field goal. So just a lot of dumb stuff from Missouri. They are absolutely dead to make the playoffs, but Oklahoma is not. As far as the SEC goes, this team, if the playoffs started today, based on the rankings the committee gave us, they'd be in. They would be the last team in. Now they play LSU this week, which is looking pretty nice after what they did against Western Kentucky. But yeah, I think this team is in if they win. What do you think?
I mean, I think they're in too. I think this is one of those weeks that everyone just needs to go in who's assuming at this point that they are all in the playoffs, needs to take care of business. Certainly cannot be a look-ahead spot. LSU has nothing to play for, but at the same time, nothing to lose. Sometimes those are the most dangerous teams in the country.
Yeah, I believe that game's in Death Valley too. So absolutely a tough place for Oklahoma to go and play this final week. Elsewise in the SEC, still a couple other games. Kentucky Vanderbilt was a fun one. Vanderbilt needs to win this game this week against Tennessee. And if they do, they have a 48% chance to get into the college football playoff. Obviously would need some help. They're a bit behind in the rankings. There's some teams that will play each other that might shake things up. So we'll see. But Diego Pavia continues to be an absolute wagon. What really impressed me in this game was 12.3 yards per pass attempt against a pretty decent Kentucky defense. That's the strength of their team. So that was impressive. Otherwise, Texas beat Arkansas 52-37. The only thing I really noted there is Arkansas finally benched Taylon Green. So you saw the redshirt freshman came in, and the only real difference was he kind of just orchestrated the offense rather than throwing interceptions every other drive. And the only other marquee result was Tennessee over Florida. That one was never really in doubt. But that kind of sets up the playoff picture now that all of the other teams played FCS teams. So I'll kind of open it up to you. Anything you want to talk about in those three games, or just go right to the playoff if you'd like?
I would just say for Vandy, they've just been fun to watch the whole year, man. And one thing with this game specifically, obviously Pavia, another explosive performance, 458 through the air, 5 touchdowns. Defense forcing Carter Boley into 2 picks is a good look as well. Again, Kentucky's they're not a great SEC team, but they're still going to compete with you. So, a good 2-way performance for Vanderbilt. Again, probably not going to get in, but very impressive year overall for them. And I've had fun watching them so far. I really have.
Yeah, it's just tough. This team has 2 losses. They lost to Alabama 30-14, but Alabama scored on the final play of the game. That was otherwise, still not a good loss. You lose 23-14 if they don't run the ball in unnecessarily. And then they lost to Texas by 3 points. That's all they've done this year. So definitely not dead. Unlikely though. Again, a huge game against Tennessee, who's probably dead themselves. But that kind of sets up a really interesting week in this conference. Obviously, A&M Texas is going to be the marquee game. A&M can shut the door on Texas completely with a win in this spot, who's kind of hanging around. Alabama holds the keys to the playoff, or at least the SEC championship, if they beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl. They're 6-point favorites on the road. Based on tiebreakers, Alabama's going to play Texas A&M in the title game if just chalk plays out this week. We already mentioned Oklahoma playing LSU, a couple other games that aren't as impactful in this conference. But right now, I think this team is poised to get 4 or 5 teams, and obviously the winner of the conference, which looks like it's going to be either A&M Bama. I think there's absolutely no way you leave out the runner-up. It's just a really bad precedent to set if you're going to have an SEC conference title that features a team and then they get left out of the playoffs. I just don't see how they could possibly do that, even if Bama loses the game. Then that sets up Georgia, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, who would all benefit from not playing in a title game. They just can't incur another loss. I kind of think they get 5, man. Like, you can't, let's say A&M beats Bama for the SEC title. How do you leave out the runner-up who played in the game?
I think a really good point there with that. I think with the conference championships, especially as we've transitioned into this 12-team era, it's really hard to penalize teams for playing in that championship game. Here, the runner-up, if it is Alabama and they end up losing that game, even by 3 or even by 13, honestly, anything at that point, it's really hard in my eyes. Hopefully the committee sees that as well, to leave out the runner-up. So I'm right there with you. I think they should still include them even with a possible 3-loss team being in that situation. I'm definitely, again, I'm one of those people you can't penalize a team for at least being there, especially when they're in the position that they are.
Yeah, because if they make it, they're going to, like, if the season stopped then and they were just the runner-up in the conference, they'd be in. And then if they incur another loss, what are you going to do? Punish them? And yeah, you've already kind of made your bed. Now you have to lay in it. The playoff created this environment, which sucks. I mean, it's either put them in or dissolve the SEC championship game, because the only other conference that would have this problem is the Big Ten. The other ones aren't good enough. They're just one bid leagues for the most part. But yeah, it'll be really interesting if that scenario plays out, which is semi-likely. I imagine A&M would be favored over Alabama in what is very likely to be the SEC championship. But anything else on this conference before we move to the Big Ten?
Nothing else for me. I think it's gonna be I honestly think it's gonna be a great final week of the regular season. I do.
Oh yeah. I wish more of these teams played each other. It's basically just A&M Texas, but it's going to be a fun week regardless, because so many teams have the chance to play spoiler. And even though a lot of them aren't facing head-to-head, the spreads are tight, like 6-point spread in the Iron Bowl for Bama versus Auburn.
Always a classic. Always.
Yeah, man. And Deuce Knight looking amazing. I know it was an FCS school, but yeah, there's a lot to be excited about in the SEC aside from just the rivalries. But let's go to the Big Ten. This was a better week for this conference. USC Oregon was the game of the week, and Oregon ends up getting it done 42-27. I think the biggest story coming out of the game is just how many injuries both of these teams they had to withstand. Oregon was on their 4th and 5th tackles, both of them. So they lost their 2 starters and their swing tackle, their first backup. And now the benefit of playing at Oregon, everyone you put into the game is a 4 or 5-star. That's still the case. The only difference is, like, they're just young. Like, now you're dealing with a 4-star freshman rather than a 4-star senior or junior. I was really impressed, man. Like, they still look good. Everyone was talking about they're down their top 3 receivers, and it's like, oh, you forget. Like McClellan, the guy who had to come in and played really well opposite Sadiq, he's a 4-star. I mean, like, the depth is crazy. Malik Benson, he's now in an elevated role. He was a starter for Florida State last year. The depth of this team is crazy. So unlike, I don't know, in Indiana, for example, I think Oregon is built to kind of withstand some of these injuries. I don't know if they'll have enough juice to take down a championship if they can't get these guys back, but still an impressive win over USC, who also incurred a lot of injuries. They didn't have both of their safeties in this game. Elijah Page was hurt. They lost their center in the game. It was a mess, but really impressed with Oregon, their ability to run the ball and control a game through the injuries. What did you see in this contest?
Yeah, so this is one of my losses here. Taking USC at 10.5. Couple concerns, even though I did bet the USC way this week, I was concerned with USC's ability to stop the run. It wasn't horrible. Oregon had 179 yards on the ground. So that doesn't really concern you too much on the stat sheet necessarily right there. But I was also concerned who was going to guard Kenyon Sadiq well. And obviously they didn't do a great job with that. He was able to get loose for 2 touchdowns. So all in all, still a competitive performance by USC. Didn't help Maeva threw 2 interceptions as we were going through that game there. But just kind of tough to come up short there. Good game for Tanook Hines as well there. Obviously Oregon had to key on Lemon, Jacoby Lane. Nice game from him there. Lemon actually had a sweet touchdown pass throughout that game as well in the second. So that was kind of fun to see. But again, overall, tough loss for USC. Still kept it competitive. I think they've overachieved this year in a lot of aspects. Just one they came up short with.
Yeah, man. Tanook Hines is awesome. 4-star freshman. Like Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon are going to go to the NFL. So, and then you've got like Tanook Hines in your pipeline. They have the number 1 recruiting class next year. So 9-3 might be a disappointment for some people that are fans of USC. They obviously went through the Alex Grinch saga a few years ago. I think this program's on the right track, and playing a competitive game against Oregon still looks nice for them. So yeah, I like where USC's headed. They just came up a little bit short this year. Otherwise, there wasn't too much action at the top of the Big Ten. Ohio State played another bye game, and Indiana was on a bye, an actual bye. So that kind of left us with some greasy, I thought it was some awesome greasy action. Like that Minnesota Northwestern game had me on the edge of my seat. Northwestern gets to bowl eligibility, and Minnesota is already bowl eligible. Somehow they did that already. But man, like Preston Stone and this Northwestern team, they've got more money than you think. Griffin Wilde had a good game, and they get it was really greasy, like a 56% post-game win expectancy. But I'm happy to see Northwestern in a bowl, just the way their program is built. They're usually a team that tries, so they'll give you an exciting game. Don't look now, but Wisconsin has 2 ranked wins. They knocked off Illinois in a horrifying game again, but they finished with a 94% post-game win expectancy. Unlike the Washington game, where Wisconsin very definitively should have lost, they pounded Illinois, and this defense actually looks fierce for Wisconsin. So inject some money into the offense. I don't know. Find better luck at the quarterback position. Like, just don't have your starter get hurt for the 3rd straight year, and we'll see what they can do. And then Nebraska, completely dead. Matt Rule, after he went out publicly post-game, I can't remember what game this was, but he's like, we're the team that wins close games now. They've done nothing but lose every game since then. Get pounded by Penn State. And don't look now, Penn State, I believe they played Rutgers this week. They win, they get a bowl. They had to run the table to get to a bowl. What did you see in the rest of the Big Ten?
Yeah, how about your Badgers, man? That's an impressive win right there. I do know I was doing some digging in the whole Wisconsin side of things this week. I do know that they really are going to try to give Fickell some more financial help as they go through these next couple years. So I definitely think Wisconsin is going to be much improved as we look towards next season and the years beyond there. But also not mentioned here, don't want to touch on it too much, near disaster at Kinnick Stadium once again this week. Hawkeyes down 17-7 in the 4th quarter. All of a sudden seemed to figure out what the forward pass is with 10 minutes left in the game. Near disaster, but Stevens comes out with a game-winning field goal again. He's missed a few this year, but he's still arguably the greatest kicker in the history of that program. So from a fan perspective, that was fun to see right there. But yeah, nothing else really stuck out to me. I will say the Penn State story from whatever they've had to deal with this year. Obviously, James Franklin's situation was tough, having to run the table to get to where they are. That's been kind of cool to see there as well. So I mean, it was an impressive win for them. Nebraska playing the Hawks this week. Nebraska hates Iowa, so that's always going to be a tough situation for both programs right there.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited for that game. I know it's a 5-point spread.
Great.
And with Penn State, man, like I'm happy to see them not just kick the tires in the season, because there's a lot of players that are trying to play for NFL spots. Like, you're probably going to see at least one guy drafted in the 1st round. I know Singleton and Katron Allen are both probably going to go. The receivers probably all killed their draft stock, but some of them are eligible. Like Danny Denise Sutton, there's a lot of pros on this team. I'm not surprised they're going to scratch and claw their way to a bowl. And now I think, they might actually try. But also, if they don't and guys opt out, I'm very excited to see what the youth does for this program and if they stick around. As far as the playoff goes, pretty cut and dry. You're going to have, right now as it stands, unless there's a crazy upset, you're going to see Indiana play Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. You're going to see Oregon sit out and still get in. The only thing that can really shake this up is the game this weekend, Ohio State playing Michigan. I know the history of the game. I don't care. I don't think it matters. Ohio State has been treating their last 3 opponents like FCS schools, holding guys out left and right, still pounding them. I'm expecting them to get Smith back. I'm expecting them to get Tate back. I already bet Ohio State. I think this team just rolls Michigan. I know it's in Ann Arbor, but man, I could see this being like a 30-point game.
I was going to say also with Ohio State, them sitting out for one, Tate and Smith sitting out yesterday. First of all, very smart idea. I don't really believe in having to sit players out multiple weeks just to keep them fresh. I think rust does exist in situations like this. It just shows you the depth of this team, man. That's Ohio State clear-cut number 1 right now. I'm right there with you right now. I do think they end up rolling Michigan. I hope it's at least a fun game, but I do think they end up taking care of business. Another conference here, I mean, what we're looking at right now, it should be a really good, I know it's in a couple weeks, should be a really good championship Saturday that's shaping out here right now. It really should.
Yeah, I mean, the answer everyone wants to at least I'll speak for myself, wants to know is Indiana legit? Can they hang at the highest level? Because last year, obviously, they didn't play in this Big Ten championship and they still got in. So we're going to have an answer, not a definitive one, but at least a data point pointing us one way or the other towards what Indiana's also holding out a lot of guys too, like Surratt, a couple defenders, Drew Evans on the offensive line. We'll see who they come into that game with. They, I believe, play Purdue this week, if I'm not mistaken, and they're 28-point favorites. So I expect some of those guys to sit again with Ohio State on deck for them. But anything else in this conference, I think they're just pretty clearly getting 3 teams no matter what happens.
Yeah, 1 point with that championship game. Ohio State, Indiana, both teams got to play as best they can because there's definitely seeding involved in that game there as well. So both teams got to play their absolute best. It's not one of those that you can lose and still be fine. I know both those teams are going to want to win, especially the coaches that they have. Seeding involved should be a 1 versus 2 matchup. I am so excited for that.
Yeah, winner's going to get the 1 seed, I would guess, unless A&M
That's important.
runs table and crushes Bama. But Ohio State's certainly getting the 1 seed if they win out. What conference did I pick next? I forget if we're at Big 12 or ACC. Big 12, of course. The conference with the unpredictable results every single week, crazy games. I mean, there were like at least 4 of them. We'll talk about the big 3 in depth. I think you got to start with BYU Cincinnati. This was essentially an elimination game, and BYU gets it done, rightfully so. It was pretty ugly. BYU continues to really struggle throwing the ball. They win 26-14 over Cincinnati, 81% post-game win expectancy. Cincinnati actually outgained them by a full yard per play. But as usual, well, not usual, just kind of, they've been doing this recently. You have the 2 Cincinnati turnovers, and they end up dropping this game by 12 points. But BYU's continually done this. If you look across their entire schedule, they should be 8-3 right now. They had a post-game win expectancy below 50% against Colorado. I forget the other team off the top of my head. When they played Utah had 4 red zone trips that ended either scoreless or in field goals, and that ended up being a single-digit game. So, I mean, BYU's run hotter than the absolute sun to this point. The big thing with them, again, you can look at look-ahead lines. BYU's line is already out this week. They have a 10% chance to make the playoff with a loss to Texas Tech in the title game. Right now, it's looking very likely that BYU, unless they get upset this week, they're going to play for the title against Texas Tech. They can avenge that loss, and then they would get the auto bid. But if they lose, I know everyone wants to put them in, but they have a 10% chance, man. And the committee already told us what they think about them. They're behind all the SEC teams. What'd you see here, and just overarching thoughts on BYU?
Yeah, in this situation, it's going to be one of those things where BYU just get caught up a little bit short right here, man. I've not been super impressed with them all year. This is actually a game where I bet the over. So from a score perspective, this one was very greasy. BYU the entire year, they've not really stood out much to me in terms of the stat sheet or even some of these results for these games. Cincinnati, again, the turnovers are going to kill you always. But I definitely was expecting a much better performance on both ends from this team here as well. Another team here certainly overachieved this year for what their expectations probably were going into the year. But I'm not really super impressed with BYU. I think when they play Tech again in the championship, I think it's going to be the same story that we saw last time they played each other. I really do.
Oh, they got murdered in that game.
They did. Murdered. And even with Texas Tech being as bad as they were in the red zone, that game should have been 70-20.
Yeah, they kicked 5 field goals in the red. I think 4 of them were in the red zone.
That's still a concern too. I mean, if they want to be a legit playoff team, that's a legit concern. But I mean, I still think it's going to be the same result as last time. I do.
Yeah, I mean, what Texas Tech did is they loaded the box. They basically played no nickel, and they forced Bear Bachmeier to throw on them, and he couldn't do it. Their receivers didn't give him any help. I believe they had 5 drops in that game. So, I mean, like JoJo Phillips.
They were bad. There were a couple open touchdowns too.
Yeah, JoJo Phillips had a really bad one. I think that might have been his first game back. Tough game for BYU pass catchers across the board. I actually kind of like him. I just am not understanding what happened with the hands with Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts and company. They're 18-point favorites this week. I mean, they're going to play again. This is going to be the rematch. So not too much. People think I hate BYU. I don't. I'll happily admit I was wrong on them in the beginning of the season. Yeah, they're way better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah. No, they don't. They don't impress me by any means. Like, as like a top 5, top 10 team right now, but I mean, they're a good, solid football team. Yeah.
We're talking about the playoff, man. Like when we're talking about Oklahoma and Ole Miss, they're a great Big 12 team, and congrats to them. The Big 12 is not that good. That's why they're going to put one team in, unless BYU pulls off a historic upset, and then I have no idea what they're going to do. Probably putting them both at the expense of Oklahoma, which is tragic. But anyway, the rest of the Big 12, also pretty exciting. I don't know what the hell Kansas State did to lose that game. I know Dampier had the long, crazy run at the end of the game. Kansas State averaged 11.2 yards per carry.
School record, by the way. School record yesterday.
What did they The final rushing, I know it was over 400 yards. It was like
472 rushing yards as a team.
Dude, that's got to be Utah's dead, but I mean, that's got to be a concern for if Utah does somehow make it into the postseason. I mean, like, man, that defense, holy smokes.
Which I'm disappointed with because Utah was my Big 12 future. And I know they're going to come up just short, but that's tough to see, man. It's tough to see. But I will say throughout this game, so for one, Utah was actually down 12 with 7 minutes left. So watching that comeback was fun. I did feel really good for Dampier in that game too, because you know that's why they brought him there. They brought him there to win games and be electric. So he did that yesterday. K-State came up short. They've been coming up short all year. This has been a disaster in Manhattan for them this year. Absolute disaster. Kleiman was almost in tears at the end of this game. I know they're trying hard. I know they have so many injuries. I know he thinks guys haven't checked out. Some probably have, but absolute disaster for Kansas State this year.
They're still going to make a bowl, I think. They play Colorado this week, which is the gift that keeps on giving. But, man, I just went back and pulled it. Iowa State, they lose that game in week 0, 79% post-game win expectancy. They had another game against, obviously, the Utah game. They finished with a 75% post-game win expectancy there. Army in week 2, they lose somehow in that game, 70% post-game win expectancy. I know Army had to get the onside kick to even have that be competitive at the end, and somehow Kansas State found a way to lose. I mean, like, if the season ended the way it should have played out on the field based on the actual plays, this should be a 9-3 Kansas State team. And you find, it's funny, now you find them battling for a bowl at 5-6. So, yeah, I mean, they're a scrappy team. I'm kind of sad this is the way it's going to end for some people, some players. Like Dylan Edwards is going to transfer. He kind of played like a coward the entire season. Didn't try to play for his teammates and rush back. So disappointed to see that. But yeah, I mean, dude, this team is better than a lot of people think. Like if they were playing BYU and won, I would not be surprised at all. So yeah, kind of sad. Anything else here?
No, I got a question for you right now. What has happened to the Kansas Jayhawks the past couple of years?
Oh my God. Dude, they outgained Iowa State on a per play basis. Did you see that?
I did. And I've been such a Jalen Daniels fan, and I was so excited about him returning for one more year this year, but it's been another disaster team in the Big 12, without a doubt.
So I'm not like plugged into Kansas, but I know a lot of their fans have been calling for the heads of the OCs the second year in a row. Like last year, it was a complete disaster. And, you know, shout out Wisconsin. They hired the Kansas cast off Jeff Grimes, and we can see how that went. But so this year they had co-OCs, Jim Zembrowski and Matt Lubbock, who's been everywhere, and he's been really bad most of the places he's been. I just don't know, man. I don't know if Leipold's just continually made these bad offensive coordinator hires, or Kotelnicki was just that good with Daniels, because that was a crazy year. And they have some money. Like they brought in Henderson. Their run game is awesome still. Daniels is a part of that. I don't know. This game, I'm going to pull this up quickly.
He lost a lot of receivers from last year too. Skinner being gone, that was tough. I mean, they've lost a lot of guys in the past game. So, I mean, he hasn't really had a lot of help on that.
All right, so I just ran it on the back end. They lose by 24. What do you guess the adjusted margin of victory was? Like the expected margin of victory based on the plays on the field?
7.
7.7. Good guess, man.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have covered anyway, but just it's funny to look at this Kansas team somehow. I mean, they did have – it was an ugly game overall. A turnover. Kansas allowed 10.5 yards per attempt to Iowa State. There are some teams in the Big 12 that just like Iowa State gives trouble to with the way they play in those two tight ends every single play. And it definitely gave Kansas problems in this game. So, yeah, disappointed in the Jayhawks. I wanted to ask you what you thought about TCU and Houston. That was a very greasy game. That comes down to 3 points.
Houston had a million chances to cover, but they just could not. I bet Houston -1.5, so I was very disappointed. But I was very upset. I mean, TCU, they've had to gut some tough wins out here this year, but Wegman, man, he's just not been very good these past 6 weeks at all. At times, he's just not. It's been really, really concerning.
They use him kind of like, I don't know. They use him on the ground a ton, and I think that's to hide his arm, but he's not an athlete.
I'm at the point where I'd be concerned to be like, is he the guy going forward? Like, I don't know.
I was talking about this earlier today. I think they pay someone.
I think you have to. He's not the guy.
Mestamaker or something.
You know the thing with Houston too? Houston is in a situation where no one's really the Big 12 overall, right? I mean, Texas Tech's great this year. I mean, they probably will be pretty good again next year. There's not a team right now who's taken absolute control of that conference. And you have teams like, Texas Tech, Houston, even TCU, teams in these great locations for recruiting and resources. Like, it's kind of up for grabs as in who's really going to dominate this conference. Houston's in a great position to do so. I'm right there with you. I think you have to go out and pay someone because there's going to be some guys on the market this year.
Houston historically is a good recruiting team for their level of like they recruited Matthew Golden when he was a 4-star freshman. I mean, this team of Derek King, historically they recruit very well. So, and they have money. And it's Texas. Like the number one recruiting team in this conference, kind of far and away, is TCU. You have SMU, who obviously isn't in this conference, but they're a Texas school. You're Houston. I mean, it's the 4th largest city in the United States. Like some kids want to stay home. That's how you land a kid like Matthew Golden.
One of the best football cities in the whole country.
Yeah, Houston will be fine. I think year two under this regime, you have to be really impressed. I mean, like this team was almost in the title game until last week. So
Willie Fritz knows how to turn programs around as well. So I think he's done a great job this year at the same time.
TCU, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and try to get Mestamaker either. Same thing there. A wealthy Texas school with some NIL resources who's recruiting at the top of this class. Like better days are ahead for TCU. We just saw them in the Natty. This is a good team. Anything else in this conference? I didn't really have any takeaways from the dregs. There's nothing really to be seen there. A lot of them are going to get pounded this week too, like West Virginia, UCF. They're the opponents.
Yeah, what do you think? It might be a tough question right now. I mean, especially with the season not really done yet. What do you think Colorado does with their QBs going forward?
I mean, if they're going to retain Lewis, they keep him, play him. I think they might fire Shermer.
He's probably the guy. I mean, I feel like he's probably their best option they have going forward.
Oh, for sure. They paid him a ton of money, 4-star freshman. He's gonna start next year. I'm curious if Shermer remains their OC. They should.
It might be time.
I don't know if Deanna will do it, but yeah, absolutely. All right, Big 12 playoff picture. Right now, BYU is going to play Texas Tech in the title unless anything weird happens. The scenario that's the chaos scenario, if BYU upsets Texas Tech, what do they do? I think they're going to take them both at the expense of Oklahoma.
They probably will have to because Texas Tech is too high right now. The committee knows they're too high.
They're going to take them both, which...
Yeah, that's going to leave out...
Oklahoma.
Oh, probably Oklahoma, yeah. Or unless they say, hey, Alabama, you're not getting in if you lose the title game.
And whoever draws them is going to be doing backflips. But yeah. All right, let's go to the ACC. This was a chaotic conference this week. And, I mean, which of these games do you want to start with?
Oh, we got to start with Pitt. We have to start with Pitt. All
right. I was so pissed at this game. I actually fell asleep. By that time, Pitt had already scored 28 points. And I see that Georgia Tech made a comeback. Pitt had already done enough damage where it was fruitless. Pitt had 100% post-game win expectancy, even with the attempted comeback from Georgia Tech. And now Georgia Tech's season is over. Pitt is alive, barely. They play Miami this week. In what is a meaningless game, if Virginia and SMU take care of business, they hold all the tiebreakers. So Pitt is boxed out unless there's another upset. But, man, I don't know, man. Pitt at Georgia Tech, which is what a weird game. What did you see?
Well, for one, Pitt jumped out to a 28-0 lead. So, I mean, you're digging a hole that it's near impossible to really get out of right there. Haynes King, as good of a year that he's had, this was probably one of his worst games of the season. 2 picks from him. Defense. Georgia Tech's defense has been an issue at times this year. Did not seem to want to stop Jakarian Turner at all. 200 yards on the ground, so that was concerning there as well. This was a team I was going in looking like they were going to really build some momentum going into these final weeks of the year, but they just certainly laid an egg last night.
The defense was the concern coming into the season, and they attempted to remedy this. I mean, this team fired their defensive coordinator coming into the season, and they've got the exact same result. This is another season outside the top 100 in total defense. Haynes King is like the Diego Pavia of the ACC. He's the most valuable player to an individual team. He's not the best player, but he's the most valuable. And if he's going to have a game like this where you slip up even a little bit, you lose. And we've already seen Georgia Tech almost do this multiple times. I'm going to pull it up right now, just the post-game win expectancies, because I know they've had a couple near defeats that should have been defeats. Wake Forest, for example, 1-point win. 22% post-game win expectancy. Clemson, 3-point win, 32% post-game win expectancy. Now it's just bitten them twice. This team should be 6-4, but based on luck, they ended up being in the playoff picture. Now they're done, and the two teams that hold all of the cards are SMU and Virginia, which sets up our next game. SMU pounded Louisville. I know there's an asterisk with this. Louisville's Miller Moss did not play in the game. Deuce Adams had a reasonable game, I think, for a kid in his first start. Just a really tough place for him to play. They lose 38-6. That was one of my wins, had SMU on the week. And the other one I was kind of watching, had my eye on, was Miami, Virginia Tech. Miami is going to dual pit this week, so they needed to beat Tech. I don't know, man. Like, they kept Virginia Tech at arm's length, but it was always kind of, like Virginia Tech had 8.4 yards per pass, 5.2 yards per carry. Like, they moved the ball the entire game. I was always waiting for the Mario Cristobal moment. Like, when's the turnover going to come? And Virginia Tech's going to make this a game. Fortunately for Miami, it never did come. So I'll just open this up to you. SMU, Miami, whatever else you want to talk about in the ACC.
Well, for one, if we were making a playoff bracket on teams who play with their food, I think Miami would be the number one seed in the entire country, because it's just been time after time after time. These teams are either losing to teams they shouldn't, or they're just letting teams hang in that should not. Like, this should have been a 50-10 game with what Miami has on the roster right now compared to Virginia Tech. I mean, you're playing Kyron Jones. He's been subpar at best most of the year. So it's one of those situations where, like, you're watching this game, you're like, this should be so much better than it is right now. And that's kind of been the product with the Hurricanes this year. Again, they've looked impressive at times, but there are just times you turn the TV on, you're like, what in the world are you doing? So, I mean, yeah, they're probably dead in the water for the playoff. They're going to finish with 10 wins, which is fine, but I know they definitely wanted more with what the roster was this year. SMU, my favorite bet of the weekend was actually SMU, so very happy with that. I would say at this point, this might be one of the most dangerous teams in the country as we are going into the next phases of the season. They've been winning games that they should have. Kevin Jennings has been playing exceptional. Both phases, offensively and defensively, this team is a well-oiled machine right now. So I really like what I'm seeing from SMU here as well.
As far as making a prediction, I think this team is going to the playoff.
Yeah,
I love this.
100%.
Coming into the season, I'm pretty sure we had them as the second best roster in this conference. And believe it or not, who was the best? Yeah, we did. And who do we think was the best roster? Miami. Now, Miami still is the best roster, but as we know from Alabama and Miami, best roster doesn't always win games. There's this funny thing called coaching, which is actually really impactful for teams. And yeah, Cristobal is the best recruiter maybe in the country. It's probably him, Dan Lanning, and the SEC guys. He's not been able to figure it out. Miami's always missing the playoff every year. So, man, I don't know. SMU is super dangerous. They have a quarterback who's been to the playoff already. He didn't win the ACC championship, but brought them there. Their run game's been a little better. Like, McFall's giving them some juice. They got back Chris Johnson this week. They're finally healthy at pass catcher through various points of the season. Like, Jordan Hudson didn't play. He's back healthy. Your offensive line, I don't understand why they still play Savion Byrd. He's a definite weak link at left tackle, but the rest of the offensive line is amazing. And PJ Williams is a wagon. They're healthy on defense finally, outside of like a corner. I know Jalen Davis Robinson's been hurt, but I mean, their edges, they'll rush the passer. Like Cam Robinson played in this game. They have an excellent linebacking core that was hurt in the beginning of the season, now healthy. Interior defensive line is good. I know they went out and paid for it. They're basically using all transfers, but like Jeffrey Emba's having an excellent year. Isaiah Nwokobia and Ahmad Moses, the all-conference safeties, started out the year a little rough. They've turned it around. There's not a weakness on this defense. Their trenches are awesome. And now that there's some, at least, compliment to Kevin Jennings, man, I like this team. I like them to win over Virginia if that's how it actually plays out, which is the chalk championship. If everything holds, they're going to win. I already bet SMU this week. Cal just fired their coach. They have to go out west. But, I mean, that program is going to be a disaster. They're using Nick Rolovich, who's an analyst, and I know Rolovich has a lot of some head coaching experience. He's going to be the interim, but my goodness, man, like that team might get blown up by 30. So yeah, really, I love SMU. Really
disappointing year with that as well with Cal. I mean, I think I kind of came into the year thinking they were going to be a 7-8 win team, but certainly disappointing. They've been hard to bet on this year. Sometimes they look phenomenal, sometimes they look horrible. I think SMU is certainly going to roll this coming week, though.
Me too. I already bet it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last thing.
Yes.
Did you see the Florida State punt off the player's helmet?
Everything that team does, I did. Everything they do now just makes me mad.
Okay,
Did
so
you watch that game? Did you watch that game on Friday?
I fell asleep.
It was
and I like it was on kind of late. So when I got home from what I was doing, it was still on, but I fell asleep like immediately. So I didn't see the fabled punt until the next day.
It's been such a bad product of football for Florida State this year. And they actually came out, the AD came out and the entire program came out today and be like, we're back in Norvell for another year. So whatever they want to do is fine. But I personally don't love that move. I think it's time to move on. But I mean, they must know something that we don't here.
Well, Norvell has some equity from the undefeated season. The real problem you have with Florida State is this team's not recruiting. For 3 straight years, they've gone portal heavy, and 2 straight years, they've now rolled snake eyes. You had Jordan Travis in the program already when they had that excellent season. He graduates. You go and get Uagalele in the portal, snake eyes. You go out and you get Castellanos. He's a little better. He's still not like a difference maker. Like, they haven't been able to win any games with him. This team might miss a bowl again. Like, they're underdogs to Florida this week in the rivalry game. I believe that game's in the Swamp. I mean, they're going to miss a bowl.
Some of these rivalries can be awesome for one, but some of these matchups that when we looked in the preseason that were going to be awesome are hard to look at. For one, Florida State, and Clemson, South Carolina.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I'm still excited.
They're going to be great. I mean, they're still going to be good football games, but there's not going to be a lot of implications on them. You know what I mean?
Which I don't care about. You're talking to a guy that watched 10 hours of high school football straight on Friday.
I'm certainly going to watch them. It's just very funny, like, seeing how some of these matchups age as we kind of go through these years.
That is always funny. And it's funny what other games become awesome. You know, like Miami wasn't one you would have expected.
It's going to be a good game.
This conference is getting one playoff team in. It's whoever wins. Again, I'm putting my chips on SMU. I think this team is the most dangerous out of the teams that can actually make it. If UVA makes it, they're going to get blown out by, like, I don't know, Oregon in the first game.
I'm kind of right there with you. I think they should get one. Last year we had a disaster with Clemson winning the championship, and then SMU also getting in there, which was certainly a mistake from the committee. I think they'll get one in. They should. SMU
that can't happen this year. All the teams are way too low.
They'll take. I think they will take care of business against Virginia if that is going to be what we're going to see on championship weekend there.
Which should be the matchup. Virginia plays Virginia Tech, who is should be dead, but again, they just kind of played well against Miami. SMU's got Cal, and I think they pound Cal. So that's where we stand. Let's take our attention to the G5. The G5 is going to put a playoff team in. It's probably going to come from the American. The only game that was interesting this week was Tulsa Army. As we've talked about on previous shows, the teams that are in the driver's seat for this conference, North Texas, Navy plays some tough games, but they don't play anyone the rest of the year. Like, North Texas had a joke of a schedule. Same thing with Tulane. So the most exciting game to me was Tulsa, who had to mount a comeback to win this game after, like, this team just could not get out of their own way. They were slaughtering Army, and then they would have a turnover, like, in the red zone. They average 8.1 yards per pass, 6.1 yards per carry, and barely got a win. But, man, I was on Tulsa, so luckily the day could have been even worse if that went against us. Feel free to talk about that game or the top of the American. I still think the winner of the American is going to the playoff over JMU, but would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I certainly think it's going to be the American as well that gets that bid. Very scary situation with North Texas. They were down early in the game. They ended up rolling. I am concerned about their defense a little bit. I think that matchup with Tulane is going to be awesome. It could end up being one of those games where whoever has the ball last is going to win. I really do. I do love both teams this year. I've enjoyed watching both teams. But the fact that both did take care of business was very good. But we almost had a scare there with Rice for sure. But we didn't. But I am excited to see what they both do kind of going forward here. But also JMU, and although they're not going to get the bid, probably they almost slipped up yesterday as well. What was that?
I don't know. The first thing I saw in that game, it wasn't on my quad box. They returned a pick six, so that I was like, oh man, JMU is going to roll this team. And then you come back and you see they're down, and it required that long touchdown run at the end of the game for them to win. So I was very curious to see where this was going to come out in the model. And they did end up with a 95% post-game win expectancy. And to boil all that down, it kind of suggests that they were playing with their food and got in their own way more than Washington State really coming out and dominating. And then you look at the stats, 4.4 yards per play for Washington State. That's pretty bad. 5.5 yards per pass, definitely not any good. 3.5 yards per carry is below the average. Just JMU's done this a couple times. They did it against Louisiana earlier in the year. Like a couple weird errors happened in the game, and you end up with not covering and a scare that almost cost you your season. So I'll say this. I don't think I'm worried about JMU. As far as winning the Sun Belt goes, I still think they're going to be boxed out of the AAC champion. The AAC, the American, has played so many more difficult games than like JMU. What do you think?
The American, again, I know we don't put our stock too much into rankings just yet. We might get a ranked versus ranked American championship. So that's going to be awesome. We might.
Tulane is ranked.
I
don't know
to see
how,
that.
but they are.
But kind of going throughout the rest of G5, one thing I did this week, I did end up seeing a lot of Mountain West football, as you know me watching my late night my late night games here. One game, obviously with college football, there's 60, 70 games on a Saturday, and obviously we always like to key on these really marquee matchups. One game I was very impressed with, one of my favorite bets of the weekend, Utah State.
That was another one. We talk about games I missed. I don't know why I didn't fire on that. I literally just forgot.
It's one that didn't stick out necessarily on the slate, but that was one that was on, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I bet them at +2. I will say Bronco Mendenhall is a very good coach. He's been able to turn programs around pretty well the last 2 years. He had a New Mexico team last season that was probably the worst roster in college football in the FBS in the last decade, and ended up still winning a couple games with them. But Bryson Barnes, man, that guy is tough. Even though he's a Mountain West quarterback, he's competitive, man. I was very impressed with what I saw there. Fresno State, not a bad team. That was a 7-3 team going into that game right there. But I was impressed. Utah State bowl eligible.
Yeah, they're a good team. I mean, Brady Boyd's a Texas Tech transfer. They use a ton of weird personnel, like a lot of 2 tight ends, 2 running back stuff from them.
Yeah.
And they use that backup quarterback as a receiver, so they can actually no one does that. They can do some really weird stuff. They're a fun team. I'm going to bet them this week, I think. Boise State's been taking a ton of money in the market. I don't know why. Max Cutforth looks horrible out there.
That's a good game. That's a really good game.
Boise State's a 3-point favorite on the road with a backup quarterback who looks atrocious. I get Utah State does not have a good defense, but man, let's force that guy to throw some passes. He's been so bad.
So we're gonna get a San Diego State Boise Mountain West title game.
You think so? Well, there's a huge game this week. If San Diego State loses and they play New Mexico, they're a 1.5 point favorite, I think. They basically have a pick 'em this week. If they lose, it goes to the tiebreaker.
That's gonna be the Mountain West is probably the most relevant games collectively out of every conference this weekend.
It is, and I wish we could talk about the tiebreakers, but for those of you, I hope I'm not enlightening you. The Mountain West tiebreaker is a computer formula. I don't know what goes into it. I'm not sure anyone does.
It's the only one. It's the only conference that does it. I'm pretty sure.
They don't do head-to-heads. They don't do win-loss record, opponent win-loss record. They look at something. Something goes into a computer formula, and then you have no idea who's going to get it, and then suddenly they just announce, here's our title game. I think it happened last year. Or was that the year before?
I think it was
recently.
I think it was last year, yeah.
I'm just how? I don't know. And I don't know. But anyway, that situation comes up if New Mexico upsets San Diego State, which that would tilt me to Kingdom Come. But as someone who's been a New Mexico backer, I kind of hope it happens.
I like them a lot this year. Jason Neck's done a good job.
I think that's the best game of the week. But anyway, that's a fun conference. The MAC is going to come down to this week. Basically, Toledo and Western Michigan hold the keys to that conference. Toledo's got a big game. They play Central Michigan. Western plays Eastern. They should win that game. I already bet Western. The biggest result last week was Miami, Ohio, keeping their dreams alive. Basically, Western has a 5-1 record in conference, and then there's this huge log jam for second. Long story short, if Toledo wins, they hold most of the tiebreakers. And the Conference USA, man, I mean, you think it's all decided, and then Jacksonville State loses to Florida International, and now suddenly this is going to come down to the final week of the season. Kennesaw is going to be in because they play a meaningless game for the most part that they should win. And then Jacksonville State plays Western Kentucky. The winner of that game is getting in.
Semifinal game.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's
Jacksonville
awesome.
State might have sealed their fate with that loss. Now they got a win and get in situation against Western Kentucky. All they had to do was take care of business against FIU, and they messed it up.
For anyone listening here that's not really paid attention to a lot of G5 ball this year, this is a great weekend to do so.
Oh,
it's going to be awesome.
JMU plays Coastal Carolina. That's 1-2 on that side of the conference.
That's good. That's a good game.
We just talked about a couple in Conference USA. Obviously, that has no implications in the playoff. But, like, the winner of Conference USA is going to play in a good bowl game. Like, you need to know these teams if you're going to watch bowl season and stuff. So much of it's spread out. Like, you're going to have the opportunity to watch a really good game and then maybe the best of the best G5 game on your quad box. Conference USA is not making any noise. The only team that was potentially live to do anything that had any sort of postseason odds was Liberty, and now they're probably going to miss a bowl, funny enough. But yeah, I don't know.
The
Conference
one thing
is
that's
a mess.
Interesting too is a lot of these games, a lot of these G5 games, or a lot of ESPN Plus games, a lot of these are on national TV with the Friday slate being so extensive this week. So a lot of opportunities to see a lot of these really key matchups for the G5.
Yeah, I know some of them do play on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Couple Mountain West games.
Boise, Utah State, the one that we talked about wanting to bet.
San Diego State's playing New Mexico Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, San Diego State, New Mexico is the best game, maybe on the whole card. Your Iowa plays that day. The Egg Bowl's that
that's
day.
A huge matchup. The slate on Friday is just as good as Saturday this year.
Yeah, it might be better. It's awesome. Just
A&M, Texas is playing.
All right. Well, got to ask you.
Yeah.
Playoff starts today. Who are you leaving out? Who are you putting in?
I'm, for one, leaving out BYU. I have to.
That's assuming they lose and they don't get the auto bid.
I'm probably putting in, at this rate, I mean, you got to look head-to-head. I'm probably putting in Oklahoma.
They put Oklahoma 8 last week. I know some of you might not like Oklahoma, but if Oklahoma wins everything out, the committee already told us that they're going to be in.
I'm definitely putting Notre Dame in.
Yeah, Notre Dame is just...
We got to touch on them because I think they are looking like a top 5 team in the country right now. They are. I know they're not playing a lot of great teams right now, but they are just steamrolling everyone. So I'm certainly putting Notre Dame in. From a Big Ten perspective, again, I think you're going to get those 3. I think you're going to get Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. You're going to probably get one from the Big 12. If everything goes the way it should, one from the ACC. The real question here is going to be the SEC. That Alabama-Auburn game could just ensue chaos on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that championship game, assuming Alabama wins.
And here's the deal with Auburn. There has been games where they've not been bowl eligible playing that team, and they take them down to the wire because they just hate Alabama. So that no matter what you're going to get cinema in that game regardless, I think, this year. I really do. They bring their best stuff every single time in that matchup. So we could see an absolute classic Saturday night. We really could.
People clown Auburn, and they're probably going to miss a bowl. I mean, they're near touchdown underdogs in this game. That would put them at 5-7. But they lost to Oklahoma by 7. They lost to A&M by 6. They lost to Georgia by 10. They lost to Missouri by 6. They lost to Kentucky by 7, and then they lost to Vanderbilt by 7. Dude, that's every loss they have is single digits. Again.
That's a horrible run out. Horrible run out.
And I know Hugh Freeze did this to himself, and that's why they fired him. But playing Auburn, that's why Alabama's a 6-point favorite. Auburn is not a bad. Auburn is like top 10 recruiting classes stacked. This roster is loaded. They're just poorly coached.
Phenomenal defense. I think you need to spend money on a quarterback.
I like Deuce Knight. We'll see what he can do. He's got a huge task ahead of him. But like one last thing in the SEC, Arkansas, they lost to Ole Miss by 6. Obviously, they had the Memphis disaster. Lose to Tennessee by 3. Lose to A&M by 3. Lose to Auburn by 9. Lose to Mississippi State by 3. Lose to LSU by 1. Like, Arkansas has been all these games. The SEC is a loaded conference, man. I don't care what anyone says. But anyway, I'll turn it over to you. Look aheads and your darling FCS.
So, FCS playoffs got announced today. I got some really good matchups in this conference. Hopefully, I'm going to put together some good things for everyone this week. Lines, again, don't come out until last minute. I know it's tough, but the market doesn't want to get screwed with everything. So they do that on purpose because they know there are edges out there, especially in the FCS. Look aheads, I'm probably, again, I don't really like betting them as a fan. I'm probably end up betting Iowa just because Nebraska's just ravaged this year. I know they hate them, but I don't like them against Iowa at all this year. I'm probably going to end up betting teams like Oregon for one against Washington. That's actually a really good game, but I actually like the Ducks a lot in that. Penn State, Rutgers, that's a tough spread, but could be interesting. Rutgers has just had a bad back half of the year. And then looking ahead too, I think we also might get a nice little Alabama spread as well. Again, I know Iron Bowl is tough, but 5.5, if that goes down, I might wait, but I still like the Tide in that game.
I like them too. They scare me, and that has nothing to do with them individually in this game, in this matchup. It's just them playing Florida State, being close in games they shouldn't be. But yeah, I'll do my look aheads. But before then, first of all, thank you guys in the chat. A lot of funny Mark Gronowski talk, having his Heisman moment this year. And the Spider-Man meme with Bear Bachmeyer really got me. Peyton, that was a good one. And Jalen Daniels being on his 9-year revenge tour. Maybe he'll get a waiver and play next year. You never know. Funny thing, he's been with Kansas all of those years.
I also am going to bet Purdue. I see in the chat. I'm absolutely betting Purdue because that's the most Purdue spot you can possibly imagine they could have. Friday night, 28-point dogs. Oh, yeah.
Indiana's not going to play everyone. Surratt, no. I doubt Surratt's going to play. I doubt Evans is going to play. A couple defenders aren't going to play.
I would probably bet that now because I feel like that actually might go down.
I don't know, man. I don't have a good feel for that. I think it all depends on when those injuries get announced. And again, my feel is that they don't play. But I could see Indiana also taking some like pretty weak money throughout the week, just like record-wise. I don't know. I don't have a good feel for that.
I will also say from an FCS side, all these games are really good this year. And one thing to note that a lot of them are just at large bids, which is really cool. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think they're all going to be good games. You get a couple where teams just end up blowing one out by 50, but I think they're all going to be good. And one thing that's exciting about the FCS this week, they're all within the same time. So it's all within a 4-hour window. So that's also kind of fun to see as well.
Couple lines I think are going to move quickly. SMU, we talked about Cal fired their coach an hour before the show started. Texas Tech, it's under 21 right now. They're going to beat the piss out of West Virginia. Ohio State, Michigan, I'm guessing that's going to go beyond 10. Toledo, Central Michigan's at 9.5. That's going to touch 10. Tulsa is at 7.5. They play UAB. Who knows where that team's at? Something we didn't touch on and probably shouldn't. So I'll say that's it. Missouri's a 2-point favorite over Arkansas. I out of principle have to take that. And the last one I played was Western Michigan against Eastern. I don't know where that one moves. That would not be at the top of the card. But yeah, look aheads for you.
Yeah, probably the same. Like what I was saying there. I mean, I do like Bama there. I do like Western Michigan. I'm definitely gonna take Missouri there in that spot as well. But that's kind of it for me right now. Again, I'll do more of a deep dive on some of these other lines going forward this week. But from what I've seen so far, that's kind of what I like here.
All right.
At least on Sunday.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Always really fun to do this. We'll have one last version of this show next week, or maybe we'll do conference championships. I won't speak out of character there. Maybe we'll do an extra show there. But one thing we're going to do is a bowl extravaganza show. We'll announce the time and day for that. Likely going to be that Monday or Tuesday after the playoff and the bowls get announced. So have no fear. We will discuss everything postseason as well. But until then, thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll be back to talk some rivalry action a little bit later. Until then, good luck. We will see you next time.